Well, howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we're gonna play around with virtualization using XCP-ng. As you know, I'm converting all of my stack to run XCP-ng, with the exception of one server, but we're not going to cover that on this video. And while we have this unit here from Sasha, the Synology Flash Station 1018, I wanted to kind of put it through its paces and do some tests with different types of storage, shared storage on the network. So that's what this video is all about today. So buckle up, Buttercup. Let's get it started right now. So I have my XCP-ng Center up. I'm running version 8.01. Now let me qualify this before we get started. All of my XCP is currently running 7.6. I have not played around with 8.0 on XCP. XCP HV1 is a unit that I built, the low power server that we built out of used parts. I think it's got a 3470 Xeon processor in there and 16 gig of RAM. That is my current live server. I've got my Blue Iris, I've got my surveillance system on there, and yes, it runs very, very well on there. I've got free PBX running, and then I have Zen Orchestra. And like I say, this is not a real powerful machine. Let's see here. It's got, I think I said 16 gig of RAM. Yes. And let's see, it has 8 CPUs. Well, four cores, 4 threads. So, yeah, a 4-core CPU. It's an X3470 Xeon at 2.9 gigahertz. So, very happy with that. Now, XCP Hypervisor 2 is the one we're going to be dealing with today. And this is one of my Dell R710 servers. And as you can see, this one has quite a few more CPUs in it. They're the X5670 CPUs. I've got, I think, 40 gig of RAM, 48 gig of RAM on that. So what I've done is I've created a Windows 10. Actually, I copied one of my Windows 10 Pro base machines. I just migrated it or copied it onto this server and then ran it up. This server, or this Windows 10 unit, had been sysprepped. This image over here, this Windows 10 Pro base. So all I did was copy that VM over to XCP Hypervisor 2, and then started it up and ran through the initial setup, and it's here running in a console window. So right now in this server, I have a 1 terabyte spinning hard drive. It's simply a 2.5-inch notebook hard drive that came out of a laptop that I wasn't using anymore. And then I also have a set of 120 gig SAS drives as the boot drive. So that's what the local storage is. And then we have our ISO library. So what I want to do today is I want to create an Nfs Share, and I want to create an ISCSI share over on that Flash Station 1018. And I want to connect those to this Windows 10 unit and see which one we get better performance out of using Crystal Disk and another disk testing utility. So first, let's get a baseline. Let's see what our transfer and speeds are on this virtual machine, just saving it to a local storage repository, directly attached storage. And let's go out to the local drive. And you'll see I have my local 60 gig hard drive connected. I have a shared network connection connected to my home NAS and one to my company NAS for my applications, because we're going to need to run a couple of programs here. So the first one I want to run is Aja disk test. So I don't know if I have that loaded. Let's go see if I have Aja loaded. Yes, I do. So let's go to Aja system test. We'll run that, and we'll see what kind of speed we get locally, and then we'll also see what kind of speed we get with the video and the application drive. So I'm going to go ahead and run these tests. Now this is my standard test. I do a 1920 by 1080p. Test file is 1 gig, 10-bit YUV, etc., etc. And again, this is a synthetic benchmark test, so take it for what it's worth. So let's test the local virtual hard drive first. See what kind of read and write speeds we get. Alright, so there's the read and write speed with Aja on disk C. Let's try that with the video drive. Now this is connected to my Synology home NAS. Does not have a 10 gigabit network adapter. It's only got a 1 gigabit network adapter. Let's just do the test on that. There you go. So 106 and 103. Now let's test to our Synology NAS, which is the application is on my actual Synology DS918 Plus. So let's go ahead and start on that. There you go. So I ran that test again against my Synology DS918 Plus. I have no idea why I'm getting these read and write speeds, but they are what they are. Now I've also mapped a drive letter to the flash station, and so let's go ahead and do a test to that one. That should be significantly better, and as you can see, it is much better speed. Alright, so we're over at the flash station now, and let's go ahead and create a shared, or an NFS share. And then what we're going to do is go into XCP, and we're going to move that machine over to this NFS share. We're going to move the entire virtual machine so that it boots off this NFS share, runs off the NFS instead of the local spinning drive. So I'm just going to come up here to Control Panel, go to Shared Folder, and I already have one on here called ISCSI, but I'm going to create another one. So I'll create one called, we'll call this HV2-NFS, and this is the NFS share for HV2. And I'm gonna disable the recycle bin. We don't need it on this in this case. Well, I'm not going to use it. Just click on next here, next. Run through here. It'll give you default read and write permissions. Those should be okay. And then you've created the share. Now, what you need to do though, once you've created the NFS share, is you need to come up here to the edit button and come over here in NFS permissions, and you're going to have to create some permissions. So the IP that it's asking here is the IP address of the XCP-ng server. So we need to put that into here. So the IP address of that XCP-ng server is 192.168.5.6. So that's the IP of the server that will have the permission to read and write to this. That should be all you need to do. Click OK, and then you'll see you've got an OK here. Everything's set up, ready to go. Now let's go over to XCP, and we're going to add the NFS share here. So we'll come over to storage, and we're going to create a new storage repository, and we're going to select NFS, click next. We'll just call it NFS virtual disk storage. We'll leave that there. And then we need to give it the name of the server and the path. So if we come back to our Synology flash station here, and we right click on this and go to edit and go to NFS, you'll see the path is there, volume 2 HV2-NFS. So come back to XCP. So now what we'll want to do is put the name of the server or the IP address in here. So that's going to be 192.168.5.17 colon / and then the path, which is volume 2 / HV2-NFS. HV2-NFS. And we're just going to leave the settings as they are, NFS version 3. We could do a more advanced NFS, but I'm just trying to show you how this works. So I'm going to click on scan and see if it actually finds it, and it appears to have found it. So I'm going to click on finish, and you'll see now it's created a NFS virtual disk storage, and you'll see that we have 155 gig in use and 1.1 terabyte free. Now the next thing I want to do is actually move this virtual hard drive off of the 1 terabyte spinner. So if I come to the 1 terabyte spinner and go to storage, you'll see there's my Windows 10 machine there. I want to move that storage though, so I'm just going to come over to the machine, go to storage. I'm going to select it here and I'm going to do move. And what I'm going to do is move it from local storage, or actually 1 terabyte spinner, you see it says where it is. And I'm going to move it to the NFS virtual disk storage over on the Synology flash station. So I click on move and basically just wait for it to finish moving. Now if you come down here to notifications and you click on that, you can see up here it is moving the virtual disk Windows 10 Pro base 0. And if you click on the little drop down, it tells you how much time has elapsed. So I don't know how long this is going to take. It'd be interesting to see if it takes 5, 10, 15 minutes. It is, in theory, a 60 gigabyte virtual hard drive, but you can see the progress bar down here is incrementing. So we'll let this run, and we'll come back when it's done and tell you how long it took. All right, so we're coming in the home stretch. So it looks like it's going to take anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes to transfer this virtual hard drive over to the Synology flash station. And there you see it completed in 10 minutes and 31 seconds. So now if we come over here to our Windows 10 Pro base, which is our Windows 10 machine, you should see now that it has now moved it over to the NFS virtual disk storage, 60 gig, yada yada. So I'm going to go over to the console. I'm going to go ahead and start that virtual machine. And so now this virtual machine will be actually running off of the Synology flash station. Well, the virtual machine is running off XCP, but the storage is running off of the Synology flash station. So, and as we boot up, I'm just coming over here to the Synology flash station to give you an idea of what the disk utilization looks like, the network throughput, that kind of thing. So not anything too significant. All right, so now that we've got the flash station, got this machine booting off the flash station, its hard drive anyway, we're going to go in and make sure we get all the updates done. As you can see, it just worked on one. We're going to remote desktop into here, and we're going to do some more testing, drive speed testing. But I can tell you just from the initial boot up, it seems a little bit faster. All right, so since we now have our system booting off the NFS disk, let's go ahead and test it with Aja and see how much better speeds we're getting. And let's start it. Boom, baby. Yeah, I'd say that's quite a bit faster. Wouldn't you? Do one more test. Doesn't even have time to register the Ethernet connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to settings and let it run continuously. Go ahead and click on start and let that run for a minute or two, and then observe the Ethernet throughput. Alright, so now let's try the video drive on the Synology NAS. I don't expect this to be any faster, but I just want you to see the test results we're getting. We'll just do a single test. And last time we get about 100 megabytes per second, right around there, read and write. See what we get this time. And it looks like we're going to get the same read-write speeds. So it's quite a bit faster on the local Nfs Share. Let's try our regular Synology NAS. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that. I don't think that is an accurate reading. One thing I have noticed is that every once in a while I need to reboot my Synology NAS to get the speeds to come back up. Now I have those connections on that Synology NAS bonded. Maybe that has something to do with it. At this point I'm just guessing. But as you can see, the read and write speeds to the Synology are not that great. And then we'll try, after this one, we'll try reading and writing to the flash station over SMB. Alright, so 49 and 49, so let's change that to drive F, which is the Synology flash station. And we're still getting really good transfer speeds on that. So let me let those run continuously. And let's start. And so if you monitor over here, There you go. Alright, so I'm on the Synology flash station. What I want to do next is create an ISCSI share on here, and then we will share that with the XCP machine, and we will actually move the virtual machine hard drive over to the ISCSI share, and then we'll do some testing on that and see if our speeds are any better or any worse. Alright, so in order to create an ISCSI share, now normally what you would do is not use the entire drive volume for SHR2. If you wanted to set up a standard ISCSI on Synology, you're going to need to put it on a separate volume, but we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. We're going to come up here to the main menu, and we're going to add the ISCSI manager to the desktop. Now what I'm going to do is just create a Target Lun using the ISCSI manager. So you just basically bring it up, go in here, create a target, and we'll call this XCP HV2 ISCSI, just to make things easier. I'm going to do the same thing here, XCP HV2 ISCSI. You can leave that what the name that it was, but I'm just gonna use a very simple name. So we'll click next. We're also going to create a LUN and map it to this target, and we'll do XCP HV2, and we'll do volume 2, which is 912 gig available, and I'm going to give this one a 300 gigabyte partition. I'm going to use their recommended thick provisioning for better performance. Click on next and apply, and then it should go out and create the target, and it should create the LUN, and they are both now available. So now let's go over to XCP and let's connect up to that ISCSI and see if we can connect it up. Alright, so we're over on our XCP-NG, and I just prefer to use the XCP-NG Center. I'm more familiar with it. I haven't had time enough to play with Zen Orchestra to become confident in it. So let's go over here to storage, and this time we're going to set up a new storage repository, and we're going to do an ISCSI block-based storage. Click on next. We'll just call it ISCSI Virtual Disk Storage, and now we should be able to type in the IP address of this Synology flash station, which is 5.17, and do a scan, and we will choose XCP HV2 ISCSI with the IPv4 address. Let it do its thing. It set up the Target Lun, which is Synology. Go ahead and click on Finish. And it's now telling us, hey, creating a new virtual disk will destroy any data present. Do you want to format the disk? We're going to say yes. Now it'll go out and create a storage repository. Now remember when we moved it over from regular spinning disk over to NFS, it took about 10.5 minutes. Now we're going to move this virtual machine storage over from here, which is on the NFS. We're going to move that over to the ISCSI virtual disk storage, and then we're going to run that machine off of there. So let's go ahead and click on Move, and if you notice down here it says it's moving the virtual disk. We can come down to notifications and we can monitor it. So we know our other one took 10 minutes and 21 seconds to move it from spinning Rust over to the NFS share. We're going to see how long it takes to move it now from the NFS share to the ISCSI share, and we'll come back when it's just about done. Alright, so as you can see by the progress bar up at the top, moving virtual machine storage between network drives is quite a bit faster than moving it from a local spinning drive. Now keep in mind, the spinning drive I have in this server for storage of virtual machines is a laptop 2.5-inch hard drive. So it's not very fast. I think it's only a 5400 RPM drive. And I'm running it on a serial ATA/SAS controller on this Dell. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, to be honest with you, but this is kind of making the point that I like to make, is that when I do virtual machines, I kind of like to use shared storage if they don't have a NAS built into the hypervisor. And this IBM that I'm testing on is strictly a hypervisor. It doesn't have any onboard RAID level storage or anything of that sort on it. So that could have something to do with the speed, but it's just much faster. So it's transferred that virtual machine in about 5 minutes. I think it's going to end up being not the machine, but the hard drive, the virtual hard drive. So that's pretty good speed. All right, so let's come back to our infrastructure now. And now if we go to the Windows 10 base, you'll see it's now on the ISCSI virtual disk storage. So let's go to the console. Let's go ahead and boot up the machine. And once the machine is booted up, we'll go into a virtual, we'll do a RDP session into the virtual machine, and we will run some tests. So we'll come back once I go back into the VM. We're running the virtual machine now off of ISCSI storage, and let's go run into Aja, and let's see what kind of speed we're getting. So let's test our local C drive, which is now an ISCSI share. And you can see all the settings are the same. Let's just make sure it's going to do a single pass. And let's click on Start. There you go. So, not as fast as NFS. In the NFS, we're getting the 700-800 range. I'm going to go ahead and let this run multiple passes, just so we can get make sure it isn't caching or something like that. But it looks like ISCSI is a bit slower than NFS when it comes to where the virtual hard drive is. Still not bad speeds. And keep in mind, all this is running on my 10 gigabit network. I have not tweaked this 10 gig network yet to try to get the full speeds out of it. There's a bottleneck somewhere, but 10 gig is like it was still an art form. So there you go. I'm going to stop that test, and I'm only going to come back and run a single test. Now, that should not affect the transfer speeds I'm getting to my Synology NAS, which we're about to test now. And you see it's had no effect on that. Keep in mind, the virtual hard drive that's running on ISCSI is the boot drive, so it shouldn't affect the network connection speeds to the Synology or the Synology NAS. All right, now let's go to the flash station, which is the F drive. We're still using SMB for this. Yeah, and you can see we're getting really good write speeds. Not so good on the read speeds. Let's set that to run continuously and see if we don't get a better score. I don't think that read speed's going to come up. Again, you're seeing it, folks. Don't ask me why I'm getting these slower read speeds on the... this is an F1 RAID, or RAID F1 on the Synology flash station. So go ahead and click on Stop here. Now let's go ahead and use the Applications drive, which is the Synology NAS. We're only going to do a single run on that. Let's go ahead and click on Start. Coming into the home stretch. Alrighty, so 50 and 45 on the Synology NAS. Alright, now the mother of all tests. This is my Windows 10 workstation. It has a 10 gig Mellanox network card in it, connected via fiber back to the switch. Thank you, Sasha, for the donation of the switch again. And then there is a another connection going to the XCP-NG server, which is done over SFP plus connections, and we're going to test the speed between my workstation and the virtual machine running on XCP-NG. So the first thing I need to do is get iPerf 3 up and running here as a server and allow access through my firewall. So now it's listening on 5201. So now it's time to, I need to remember my IP address. Yeah, I forget my IP. So let's do something. Let's do IP config so I know my IP address of my local machine. Okay, so I believe my is 596. Okay, so 596. So we'll go ahead and put this in server mode. Then let's come over to our remote machine. iperf 3 minus client to 168.5.96 I think is the command that I put in. Yes. So you'll see we are only getting about half of our 10 gig speed. Now, I don't know why that is. In fact, let this run. We'll let it run for 60 seconds. I think it's minus. Nope. Hang on a second. I think it's minus T60. Yes. Okay, so we'll let it run for 60 seconds so you can get a good look. So I'm not getting close to 10 gigabit across my network, well, at least between my workstation and this virtual machine. So we obviously have some tweaking with the 10 gig networking left to do, but even at these speeds, I'm quite happy with the performance I'm getting. But, you know, I'm kind of like you that way. I want to know why I'm not getting 10 gig networking. So we'll work on this. Again, this is going to be a work in progress, but I just want you to see that we are actually getting better than 1 gigabit networking. And we will get to 10 gig eventually. So I just don't know where the holdup is, whether it's my frame size, whether it's the network cards I'm using, what it is. But we'll figure it out eventually. It'll make for another great video. But there you go. Half of 10 gigabit is better than 1 gigabit in my estimation, or in my estimation. All right, so let's go over the Crystal Dismark results using 3 different connections. So the upper left-hand corner is when I had spinning Rust, and I had the virtual machine loading off the spinning Rust hard drive. So that's this one right here. And you can see my write speeds were good, but my read speeds were abysmal. Again, that is a 2.5-inch hard drive out of a laptop, and it's not designed to be running a virtual machine off, that's for sure. But it's what I have in this server to run VMs off of. So then what we did was we created an Nfs Share on the Synology flash station, and you can see there's a huge performance gain all across the board. We went from 28 megabyte read speeds to 775, and we went to 551 megabyte per second write speeds to that Synology flash station. So that's quite a big increase in speed. And that, if you notice something else, though, when you look at the ISCSI connection down in the bottom window, we're pretty darn close. Well, I say pretty darn close. We're closer to NFS than we are to spinning Rust. So 513 and 499 read and write, respectively. And then the 4K sequential read and writes and the 4K sequential. You can see for yourself they did a little bit better on NFS. And that stands to reason because NFS does not have the overhead that ISCSI can have. So there you go. Readings for yourself on that Synology flash station. So combining 10 gig networking with flash storage will help you immensely on your speed of your virtual machines, throughput on your virtual machines. And, when I create VMs, let's just put it this way, I'll be doing them on shared storage. There's no reason not to. Now, what'll be interesting to see is when I bring up my Synology NAS, which has a 10 gig network card in it, and it has 6 2 terabyte hard drives in it. I want to see what kind of speeds we get with Crystal Dismark if I do an NFS and an ISCSI and an SMB share on that unit. I'll bring up some other Crystal Dismark results because I want you to see those as well. Now, these are the test results for drive mapping via SMB to some shares. The upper left-hand corner is the F drive mapping onto the Synology FS 1018 via SMB. And those are the kind of read-write speeds we're getting on there. Still better than a spinning hard drive. Much better. Then the one next to that, the V-Drive Exponology SMB, is my Exponology, my home NAS, using, I think, a total of 4 hard drives in there. It's only got a gigabit network connection. We'll be taking care of that and upgrading that to 10 gig. But for now, it's got a 1 gig networking connection. Read and write speeds are very good over the gigabit. And then down at the bottom is my actual Synology DS918 Plus running SMB. And for some reason, we're still getting slower read and write speeds on that Synology NAS than I am on the Exponology. And both units contain 4 hard drives, a little bit different arrangement, but they're pretty close to one another, so I'm not going to cry over this, but I just want you to see the test results for yourself when connecting to Exponology versus Synology versus a flash storage device. So the flash storage device, of course, is going to be quicker because it doesn't have any moving parts. It's reading and writing to RAM. So there you go. There's the test results in black and white and green and blue and a little bit of red for everybody to see. All right, so I admit I was going to wait to do this into another video, but I got a wild hair and it was up and running. So let me explain something to you. On one of these Dell servers, I have ISCSI 6.7 running. In that virtual, or in that hypervisor, I have a virtual copy of Exponology running the current version of the DSM software. I've also passed through the controller through ISCSI to Exponology, and I've let Exponology handle all the drives in that ISCSI Dell unit. I've also passed through the Mellanox adapter, 10 gig networking adapter, so that I can, compare it. So, as you saw earlier, we were testing everything onto the Synology flash station. So, let's see how the results were compared to sending it to spinning Rust over ISCSI and NFS, because that's what I've done. So, let's go over here. So, on the top here is the C drive ISCSI to the lab NAS, which is my spinning Rust machine. And if you see this and compare it to the bottom one, this is the C drive to ISCSI on my, or on Sasha's flash station 1018. So, spinning Rust, SSDs. You can compare the results for yourself. Quite a bit faster. Same thing over here using NFS. So, much faster with SSDs down here on this window than it is on spinning Rust up above. I don't know what would explain this anomaly here, but it does look like in this instance that with spinning Rust, ISCSI seems to be working a little bit better. As you can see, my write speeds were a little bit better. And this 4K, I don't know whether that's an anomaly or that's normal. But overall, you can see that on ISCSI with spinning Rust, it was a little bit better than NFS on spinning Rust. And however, it's completely the opposite when you go to the SSDs. It seems like the SSD over NFS works better than does the ISCSI over to the SSD drive. So now keep in mind, these are non-laboratory environment. These are just my test results. Your test results are going to vary. But I wanted to share that with you as well, rather than making you wait for another video. There you go. What can I say? I can say this. I'm enjoying XCP. I really am glad that both as a company and on a personal side that I've decided to switch over things to XCP-NG. It's still a piece of work. It's still in development. It's still being improved. They're adding new features all the time. I'm excited to see version 8 come out, and we'll see what kind of additional features they give us. I know one of the things they're going to give us is UEFI BIOS on the XCP virtual machine. So I'm really tuned into virtualization on XCP now, moving away from Hyper-V. And as you can see, we're slowly getting our 10 gigabit act together. But I wanted to show you how easy it was to set up an Nfs Share on a Synology NAS and an ISCSI share on a Synology NAS. It's actually even easier than setting it up under Windows, and Windows is pretty darn simple. But there you go. So yeah, the flash station, what I just showed you, is probably what it's best suited for, is for storage, high-speed storage with lots of IOPS, if you're going to run virtual machines. Now, that doesn't mean it wouldn't make a great machine if you're a video editor as well, because you got really good throughput on this as well. And again, don't judge the 10 base networking on my network because it hasn't been tweaked yet. I know a lot of professional videographers, and not personally, and photographers, but I've seen a lot of them. They use these Synologies with the 10 gig network adapters in them, and they're able to feed multiple clients at the same time doing video editing. So, which is something I'm going to be doing as well. I can't simulate having 4 or 5 editors editing a video at one time, but I am going to point my video editing software to the Synology flash station, and we're going to do a whole video on their soup to nuts, beginning to end, and see what kind of performance we get. So, but there it is. It's very easy to set up an Nfs share or an ISCSI share on Synology, and it's very easy on XCP to connect to them and have unlimited different types of storage for your XCP-NG servers. Well, there you go, YouTube. So you've seen it now set up. We put that flash station to good use. A special shout out to Sasha at Blue Telecoms in the UK for loaning us that unit. And Sasha, you need to let me know when you need that unit back. I probably have 2 or 3 more weeks of use I want to do on that, and then I'd probably like to send that back to you the end of August. But if you need it sooner, you need to call and let me know, or email and let me know if you would be so kind, assuming you're watching the video. But like I say, Sasha loaned us this machine to play around with. So I've got a couple more videos we're going to do on this using the flash station, and so be on the lookout for those. And please don't forget to give us a thumbs up down below. If you liked it, leave your comments down in the comments section. I love hearing from all of you. And donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal and Patreon. We've got some more videos coming up on our conversion to AMD here at Unky Joe's Playhouse, so be on the lookout for those as well. And please don't forget that we will see you on the other side.